How many times do we sit back and have all these thoughts in our head and have all these things that we want to say and we don't say it, and it hurts the overall team, right? It holds the overall team back. Trying to control what other people think or fear of hurting someone, right? Yeah, it holds us back. Fear of being too much. Anybody told they were too much growing up? Anyone ever told they were too emotional growing up, too sensitive growing up? All the stuff. Anybody ever said, hey, just don't say anything in the meeting. Just hush up, just don't say anything. It'll be okay. Scared of getting it wrong? Yeah. We don't say it because we're scared we're going to say it wrong, or we're scared somebody's going to judge it. Exactly, Ilona. We're scared somebody's going to judge it or something like that. So if you turn the page to the next sheet, the visual on the top is imposter syndrome, Chris. Yes, imposter syndrome. It's a huge one. There has never been a more important time to lead. So I'm going to throw some statistics out there right now about leadership and teams and statistics. So we said in the beginning, 77% of us right now are reporting burnout. It's why I created this free workshop series this year, because it's burnout to bliss, right? 77% of us are reporting burnout, and it's not okay. That's not okay. When we're in burnout, we're not moving forward. When we're in burnout, we're not stepping into our leadership. When we're in burnout, if we're not stepping into our leadership, how can we possibly create a championship team? So it's really, really important to manage our own burnout, because if I'm burnt out, I can't show up in any other way, right? So the next page is all about how are you showing up? How you show up matters. Why does how you show up matter? Kelsey, why does how you show up matter?
I think it matters because it I don't know, it's the energy that you give to your team too. So you're sort of setting the tone with the energy that you bring.
Yeah, I love that. You're setting the tone. So when you walk in a room, like, energy is real. And so especially if you're the leader with the title on the team and you're showing up in low energy, what's going to happen? The rest of the team is going to be in low energy. If you're showing up as a teammate in low energy or mad or distracted or not connected or whatever it is, it affects the team. It affects the overall team. The team can't get to what it is that we're trying to get to because we're managing all the stuff underneath that's happening because people aren't showing up in their leadership. So championship teams have everybody on the team is showing up in their leadership. So there's a lot of work that gets to be done way ahead of time before that happens, right? People feel like they're safe. People feel like they can use their voice. What happens if you're on a team right now and you feel like you can't use your voice?
I was going to talk into that too, because when we hold back, when I look through some of the things that hold us back, and the trust and the imposter syndrome, and just like our fear and things like that, and when we hold back, the entire team, again, whatever we're bringing is being magnified onto the team. So now the entire team is not moving forward, but there's a feeling of holding back. There's a feeling of inauthenticity. I don't know if anybody's ever been on a team where it's like, it just doesn't feel like we're gelling, or just something doesn't feel right. It's like, the whole team feels it, and we can't always, on the team, you can't always articulate. Everybody doesn't always articulate it, but there's a feeling of,
Yeah,
So
right.
that's why,
And so
yep.
yeah, Rima, that's why you went to that's the be what's missing. So if if fun is missing, you get to bring the fun. If you're sitting in a meeting going, oh my God, this meeting is so boring, bring the fun. If you're sitting in a meeting and everybody's fighting, like, bring the peace, bring the groundedness. So standing in your leadership means that you're being what's missing. It means that you're noticing it. You're not shrinking back and pretending not to know that it's actually happening. Because when we're pretending not to know that it's happening, nothing is moving forward on the team. Kenzie, did you have something?
Yeah, I guess I had I don't know if a question, something that I struggle with leadership is, I've been in some pretty emotionally abusive relationships. Even some bosses that I've had have not been great. And through leadership, I was able to recognize, like, yeah, I had a lot to do with that. And at the same time, with burnout, what I am afraid of, I guess, is that a lot of people I love are burnt out, right? And I don't think I think we do have some responsibility on a personal level for it. And our whole society, the way we work, is unhealthy AF, right? And so there's part of me that's like, because I've had some abuse that I'm working through, right? I do tend to take too much responsibility for things to a point where I can't do anything. Like it freezes me.
Right.
So,
What does that look like, Kenzie, when you take too much responsibility?
it looks like allowing poor behavior, I guess.
Sure, sure, sure.
And
Why do we allow that poor behavior?
for me, in the past, it's been, oh, this is my fault, so I must be the one who's causing this, which, there's some truth to that.
Sure.
Or at least my fault for allowing people to treat me that way. And I guess there's still some fear about taking too much responsibility, and then another fear of like not taking enough, because I've done both.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, you can only control what you can control, and that's you. And that's your reaction and how you are dealing with things. So there's something in you in those moments that there's, whether it's, fear of speaking up, whether it's not understanding how to have the conversation, whatever it is. But in those moments when you're feeling that, a healthy team, a healthy leadership relationship means that you and I can sit down and talk about it. Right? It means that you have the tools within you as a leader to say, I'm not feeling right about this situation right now. So can we have some time and space to talk about it, and really being able to communicate with that other person. So I think that when you say, I don't know that you can take too much responsibility. I think that you can take on too much as your own,
Yeah.
so I guess what I would say is control what you can control, and start practicing the conversation, start building your leadership muscle, so that in those situations you have a plan A and plan B of how you're going to behave, how you're going to react. You can't control other people's behavior. You just can't. And you can control your own. And so whether that means you walk away, whether that means you build a boundary, whether that means you request a conversation, there's all kinds of ways that you can handle it and deal with it to stay in your leadership. But really understanding yourself is probably the very first, like, what's really going on here? What am I really hurt about? And how do I stand in my leadership right now? And here's the thing, how often does Kenzie or me or any one of us sit in our corner, sit in the bathroom floor for way too long trying to figure out how to solve it, just like Kenzie is asking right now? We spend way too long. So where I'm going with this is that, Kenzie, you get to reach out for support. It gets to a point where you're like, okay, I don't know how to do this on my own. And so I get to reach out for support. And that's exactly why we have these kinds of spaces right here, so that you have time and space to actually be able to ask those questions. But what I like, dig into what's holding you back from really standing in your leadership in those situations. Is it not using your voice? And if that's the case, go find somebody to support you on how to use your voice in that situation, right? So go out and create the support that's going to get you what you need so that you can feel whole again. Because nobody wants to feel like that. Like, I want you guys to think about when you feel like that, you're on a team and the team's not going right, and you're upset about it, and you're in your head about it, and it feels icky and it feels gross. And we spend that's like, this is burnout, right? Like, when we're not being our authentic self, it creates burnout, because it's really hard to be somebody else. You not using your voice, Kenzie, is not being authentically you, right? When we don't use our voice, we are not standing in our own authenticity, because we're scared about it's not going to come off right. Like, we have all this story in our head that we're telling ourselves about it's not going to come off right, whatever it is. But if I truly care about somebody, if I truly care about Rima, and Rima and I are not okay, I get to go to Rima and say, hey, Rima, can we have a conversation? And if I'm not able to have that conversation, that's where I get to have support to really support me in rising up to do that, coaching me through that. Does that support, Kenzie?
It does. Thank you, Tina. I really
Okay.
appreciate it.
Yeah, you
Tina,
bet.
I'd
Absolutely.
love to
So,
contribute. I'd love to contribute a little bit to that because I know I feel and have felt that way so much. And I think that what supported me was separating I'm responsible from this is my fault. Like I got to tell, oh, it's my fault that this meeting is going this way, or it's my fault that, you know, this is happening, because I was there too. And I'm like, well, it's my fault and I don't know how to fix it. So I'm just going to stay quiet and let it all happen. Right. And as someone that works with energy and a yoga instructor, I know like when I step into a room, when I step in to teach, my energy can shift the room. So when I feel it, I simply shift my energy and who I am, and I, step into something else and I bring a different energy. Because a lot of times it's like in a yoga class or in a meeting, people come in with a lot of other stuff, baggage that has nothing to do with you, but they're bringing it along, right? It's what they carry. So you may feel that heaviness in the room. And if we take it on like, oh, it's my fault because I said this to John this morning, or I didn't do that, or, then we get into fault, and then it's harder to shift because we're in blame, and then we're like beating our own selves up rather than, okay, there is, like Tina said, there's no fun here, or wow, there's a heavy energy. How can I lighten that? Maybe put down my own backpack that I brought in with me, put that down and, shift my energy into lightning. So I just wanted to presence that there's a difference between, taking it on, having things, blaming yourself, being at fault, and recognizing that, okay, I can responsibly, even by not even saying something sometimes, I can shift some of this that's going on in the room.
yeah, the other thing that comes up for me, thank you, Rima. The other thing that comes up around that, Kenzie, is neutrality. I mean, it's so easy to automatically take something like personally, like, oh, was that about me? Or, I mean, even that even happens on social media. Somebody posts something like, oh, was that about our conversation this morning? And so being able to just be neutral about it, like, okay, oh, and just like water off a duck's back. Is that the right saying? Of whatever that saying is, but it's, neutrality is, I'm working on neutrality, or I get to commit to neutrality, because there are times even still with everything that I practice where sometimes I will take something personally. And so breathing, using the tools, all that kind of stuff will support. But yeah, Kenzie, you get to be what's missing. You get to be the leader in the room, and just really move forward in that way. So the next page talks all about how are you showing up. So in that regard, Kenzie, you're showing up to a meeting and you're not using your voice, you're not showing up in your leadership. So how you show up really does matter. So like, what's your vision? What are you clear on your vision? Because a lot of the times we don't show up in our leadership because we're not clear about what our vision is. Anybody feel that? I don't know about you, but I really didn't even have a vision until within the last 3 or 4 years. I was just winging it through life. I was just showing up, and, it was kind of working sometimes, but not all the time. And okay, I'm just moving through life. And when we are in that energy and we get stuck, it's difficult to come out of that stuckness because I don't know where I'm going, because I didn't have a vision. I'm just stuck. So what am I coming stuck out of? So having a vision is really, really important about what it is that you're committed to creating, whether that's in the team, on your team at work, whether that's on your personal life at home, whether it's through like your nutrition and your body health, whatever it is. But having that vision and being committed to that vision is the absolute first step. And so what I did on how you show up matters is just gave you some questions to really sit down and journal around, like really think about it. How clear is my vision? Like, what is it that I really want? And when I get upset, why am I getting upset? What is really underneath what's going on there? And then what are you feeding your mind, body, and soul? You guys are here, which is amazing because you're feeding your mind the good. There's so many spaces out there. There's so many trainers and coaches and people out there that are doing these kinds of things. And that's filling your mind with the good versus going home and zoning out on reality TV, or going home and, sitting on the couch, I'm going to say it again, eating a bag of Cheetos. So it's really like, how are you showing up? Are you showing up in your leadership? And how intentional are you around that? Because if you're not intentional around it, when you show up on that team, you're bringing all of it with you, right? So for me, the biggest thing about teams that thrive and about leadership was, regardless of who, where I am on the team hierarchy wise, I'm still a leader. I still lead my life. I lead my life in every area of my family, of my home, my career, we all are leaders of our life. And we all get stuck because life is busy, it's noisy, it happens. So even when we have a super clear vision and we know exactly what it is that we get to create and want to create, we get stuck, stuff happens. And so on the next page, I put a 3-step repeatable process that I want to go through with you, because I really hope that it will support you to get unstuck. So this can happen in a team setting. It can happen as an individual or on an individual level, but really it's always about clarity. So whether you're looking at your own individual leadership, so Kenzie, great question. She had this question, or it was very specific. So Kenzie gets to really dig into clarity around that. Like, why does this bother me so much? You know, what's happening in those moments? What's in the gap? What am I not saying? What am I not doing? What do I want it to look like? What does success look like in that situation, right? Really getting clear about what it is that you're trying to create. And then once you're clear on, yep, this is what it is. I'm going to lose 50 pounds in 2 months. Great. I'm going to hire a sales associate in 3 months. I'm going, whatever it is, I'm going to find a man in 2 months. I'm going to get a promotion. I'm going to, I don't know, whatever it is. Once you have that clarity with whatever it is, now you can really move into alignment, and your alignment is your plan. So if it's a leadership kind of a thing and it's for yourself, you're getting in alignment, you're putting the plan together. If it's on a team, you're getting your team aligned. So if we think about team vision, team clarity, and what we're really wanting to create as a team, are we all aligned to that? How many times have you been on a team and the word vision has been, thrown around, but we really don't know the vision. We're really not ingrained in the vision. We really don't understand how the vision affects, like, how do I contribute to the vision? We really don't understand, how I, as a team member, play into that alignment and that vision. And so on your team, if you've got people that aren't in alignment with what the team gets to create, then that's where the conflict is going to come from, right? Like, that's where all of the challenges and the issues are going to come from. So it's really important to create alignment on the team. And there are all kinds of tools that you can use to do that. But if you're clear on your vision and you're not aligned, the vision it's going to be way harder to make that vision happen. If you're clear on your vision and you've got everything lined up, the people, the places, and the things all lined up, now it's time for action. You can get into committed action and go. And so if you turn the page, once you get into committed action, guess what? You're going to get stuck sometimes. Somebody on the team's going to get stuck. You're going to get stuck, the whole team, whatever it looks like. You just go back to clarity. Hey, team, we're stuck right now. How do we get clear? How do we continue to move forward? So you just go back to clarity when you're stuck, because we're going to get stuck. It's why I offer the day-long reset retreat. I just said that backwards, reset retreat, because we're going to get stuck. It's why we come to things like this, because some of you showed up today and you might have been feeling stuck. Had a bad meeting this morning, maybe had an argument with your spouse or your kids or whatever it is, but you're in that energy and you're stuck. And when we're in that energy stuck, it's really difficult to move forward and it's not fun. And we sit in suffering, right? How, if I were to say, you don't have to put this in chat or say it out loud, but I really want you to think about this. We have a choice. We can be in suffering, or we can be in forward movement, right? We can be in committed action, moving forward, living in joy, moving and in flow. So it's a choice. So suffering is a choice. So when I'm suffering, I'm not aligned, I'm bucking things, I'm in resistance, I don't like it, all that kind of stuff. So how much of your time do you spend in the suffering versus PBJ, Jenny? I love it. I love it. I'll go over PBJ in a second, but how much time do you spend in the suffering, right? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I spend all my time suffering, and 10 being hell no, I shift. Whenever I feel it, I shift and I'm back into committed action. and I'm moving forward, because there is no time for suffering. Life is too short. So where do you guys fall? Awesome, Chantel, a 9. So, you know, if, again, you don't have to put it in the chat, but if you want to, great. That kind of puts it out there and hopefully creates some momentum for you to go, okay, how do I do this faster? How do I shift faster? How do I get out of this suffering on an ongoing basis and move into forward movement and flow? On the first page, on the next page, it's clarity. And what I did on each of these is I did leader clarity and I did team clarity, because it matters. So if we think about, you know, on a team, a championship team, everybody rising up so strongly in their leadership that you can't even tell who the leader is, because everybody's just rocking it, and they're clear, and they've got that all done. Championship teams are made of a bunch of leaders that are like that. So it's important. So it starts with you, right? We're all leaders, and it starts with us. So if something's not going right on a team that you're a part of, the first thing you get to do is look in the mirror. Like, right? Check yourself. My daughter always says to me, Mom, check yourself before you wreck yourself. And so the leader clarity comes first. Your clarity comes first. So some of the questions that are on here: who do you want to be known for? What makes your leadership different? What do you want people to say about you? How do you handle conflict? What results will you create? What will you be proud of? So knowing thyself. When we talk about teams and championship teams and all of that, knowing thyself, knowing who you are first and foremost is the most important thing. It's the most important thing, and it's what you always come back to when you get stuck. So having your vision intact, knowing what you want and what your values are and what you're willing and what your boundaries are, once those are intact, you can walk into any team and rock your leadership no matter what's going on that team, right? And so if you're on a team, then on the other side of the spectrum, if you're on a team and the team's all messed up, right? Like the results aren't happening, everybody's in conflict, everybody's talking about each other behind their back. Like even just saying those things makes my stomach gross, right? Because that's not an effective, healthy team. Teams, championship teams stand for each other. Championship teams raise each other up. Championship teams, like no shit, care about each other. And so some of the questions that are on this side is what makes this team different. So if you have a team, have a team meeting, whether you're the leader or not. Even if you're not the leader of that team, you can go to the leader and suggest that we do this. I suggest we have a meeting and talk about all the things that make us different. What works on this team? What doesn't work on this team? Right? What's in the gap and what support is needed? How is this team going to handle conflict? What are our agreements? What do we agree to? What do we commit to? So if I feel like if Chantel and I aren't agreeing and we're not seeing eye to eye, what is our agreement of how we resolve that? You know, there are agreements that we can put in place and things that we can set up ahead of time that really set the team up for success. How are we going to create the results? What are we going to be proud of? What do our clients come here for? Like, know thyself, know thy vision, know thy team. Right? When you know those 3 things. So when I know who I am as a leader and I'm committed to my leadership, and now I step into a team, and on the team, we've had the conversations and we put the framework in place and we understand how to hold each other accountable. It makes a big difference in the results that team will create. And it makes a big difference in how that team likes each other. Anybody ever been on a team where everybody loves each other? It's amazing and it's fun. And it makes me want to do that for the rest of my life. Versus, anybody ever been on a team where everybody hates each other? Stabs each other in the back, talks about each other behind their back? Like that's icky, that's gross. That gets to stop immediately. So if you're on a team like that, you get to be what's missing. Somebody comes to you talking bad, you're like, hey, have you talked to them? I'm not interested in that conversation. Like, when I say that out loud, does that make you like, what happens? Would you do that? Could you do that? Next time somebody comes talking shit about somebody else, can you just say, hey, I hear you, and have you talked to them yet? I'm not interested in this conversation. Like, you get to be the stop. You get to model the way. You get to embody what it looks like to be a leader that stands in their leadership.
Right.
Setting boundaries.
Isn't it like, when we talked about like, does your outside match your inside type thing, right? I think if you really you really spend some time, right, focusing on you, right? And your relationship with self, it makes it so much easier than to let your outside match your inside, right? You have to be your own cheerleader, right? Because
Yeah.
every single day, every single one of us are saying and coaching others and giving others advice, but we don't follow that, right? So that's your check to say is like when you're in that moment, right? And you feel like, oh no, right? It's like pause to yourself and just say, what would you tell someone else in this moment, right? And then remind yourself that you're that someone else, right? Because again, you have to put yourself first. And the only way to do that is start on the inside. So I'm loving the content today because that probably wasn't me, you know what, a year ago.
Neither.
I would have been sitting there going like, yeah, shit. And I would have worried about the fact that I had a conversation with someone and then I saw them talking to someone else and I would have thought, are they talking about the conversation we had or is it me? Or I would have saw the post or I'm wondering why someone's not getting back to me. And now, you know what? On the inside, right? I'm my authentic self. I like who I am, right? And I do things in good jest and I don't worry now about all of those things like I just described because again, I get who I am, right? And I like who I am. That makes sense.
Yep. Yeah. So I love what you said there. Give me a scale of 1. I know, right? Like that's a mic drop. So give me a scale of 1 to 10. Do you love yourself? 1 means no, 10 means hell yeah. I'd
Yeah,
love to
hell
know
no,
where
yeah.
we're at. Clearly, Deanne, you are a 10. Yeah, so what's in the gap? Some of you that are not answering 10s, like I love you as a 10. Like, why don't you love yourself as a 10? What's in the gap? Like that, before you do anything else for self-development or anything else, what's in the gap from loving yourself? Because until you love yourself, can you be authentic? And when you are authentic, it's easy. Being authentic on a team is easy. Being authentic on a championship team is super fun and easy. But we hold ourselves back because we have all the programming and all this fear and all the stuff that happens. So where I'm going with this is understand that when you get real with yourself, when you start to take yourself on, that's when all the other juicy stuff is going to come. If you're frustrated on a team right now, it's because you're not standing in your leadership on that team. And so just go get support to figure out how to do that is really what it is. PBJ, pause, breathe, choose joy. When you choose joy, you choose yourself. When you choose joy, you choose healthy. When you choose joy, you choose to stand in your leadership versus being sucked up in the drift. So PBJ, have a PBJ next time you're feeling it. Pause. Just take a big deep breath. I want you guys to just do that right now. Take a big deep breath. And then let it out. And I want you to notice how you're feeling. Do you feel just a little bit better than you did before? We forget to breathe. We get to remember to breathe because in that breath, we find our voice. In that breath, we find the right answer. In that breath, we're able to say, nope, you do not get that today. I am choosing joy. I get to choose joy. And what that means right now is that I'm going to use my voice. What that means right now is that I'm going to be what's missing. Even when it's scary, because it's scary, especially if you've never done it before. So yeah, the PBJ, Jenny, is a great tool to use in those moments when you're unsure. And at the end of the day, if you don't know, because it takes practice, like it really takes practice sometimes. And so if you're unsure, you just ask for a break. Hey, I need 5 minutes. Maybe the one breath isn't going to be enough, and that's okay. Go take a break and come back and make a powerful decision, make an empowered decision versus letting the nerds and that itty bitty shitty committee let you play small. Because when you're not speaking up on a team, when you're not using your voice, when you're not being what's missing, you're playing small. You are all amazing, powerful leaders. And we get to play big. We get to play really big. And it starts with knowing ourselves and knowing how to really stand in our leadership. So if you go to the next one, alignment. So having clarity on yourself, clarity on the team, super important. Alignment is the next step. Once I'm clear on where I want to go, I get to align. What resources do I need? What people do I need to have conversations with? Is everyone on the team aligned? If I had, like making sure that all of the alignment is there. This is where we know what's working on the team, what's not working, what's in the gap, how can I support? And then we have the conversations. Imagine your team right now, whatever team you're on. Imagine if you guys just sat down and said, how can we best support each other? Like on a daily basis, how do we best support each other? What does that look like? And just have the conversations. And then you go even one step further and go, how do we feel safe? Like if you're on a team where maybe not everybody always feels safe, and trust me, you know, I know you know, how do you create safety on that team, even when you're not the leader? How do you create safety on the team even when that's being what's missing? And then how will we shift and reset when we're stuck? So it's one thing to do all the upfront work and create the agreements and have the conversations and all that kind of stuff. But when you hit the go, when you hit action, that third step in the process, go, there's going to be a point when something will get stuck. A person will get stuck, the work will get stuck, somebody will say something, there'll be conflict, whatever it is. The idea is to shift as quickly as possible, because the quicker we get back to team, the faster we get to our results. The quicker we get back to team, the less suffering that we're going to choose to be in. So when we're stuck, what are our norms? What are our agreements? How do we come to the table and get unstuck? And what does that look like? We'll be amazed if your team has just a conversation around that at how far it can actually move a team, because you're talking, you're communicating. Anybody do visualization? Rima, I know you do. Kenzie, Chantel, visualization is this, that's kind of what this is, right? Visualization is, I'm going to visualize how I want that to happen. And it's a manifestation. We manifest. You are the greatest manifester that has ever lived. You manifest every single thing that happens in your life, every word that you speak, every thought that you think, every action that you take manifests your reality. And so if we know that, when we know that, and we come in with, when I'm stuck, I get to not suffer. I get to choose to not suffer. Think about how much more productive and fun and joyful your life will be when you're not choosing to spend your time in the suffering. Right? So then if we go to 3, after alignment, once we have clarity and we're all aligned, we can get into action. And action is defining the vision, creating your priorities, and having a weekly huddle. So a lot of the times what happens with teams is we go, okay, go, and everybody goes and we never check in. And then at the end of the year, we're like, oh, wow, we didn't hit our goals. But we never checked in to see what was working and what was not working. So is your team having a huddle? Is your team having one-on-one conversations? What does the communication structure of the team look like? So that not only do you define and align to your vision, but now every single week, maybe we're having a 15-minute conversation. And the agenda for that conversation is simple. It's a 4-question sequence. What's working, what's not working, what's in the gap, and what support is needed. So if I have my priorities every week and I do that 4-question sequence at the end of the week, not only does it let me reflect on what worked this week, but it also helps me commit to next week. So if I'm coming in on Mondays and as a team, we're like, okay, here are our 3 top priorities. And at the end of the week, we're going, okay, how'd those priorities go? What worked, what didn't work? And we're constantly talking about it. We're constantly staying on top of the work and developing as we go. What's working, we can celebrate, right? Like, that's awesome that happened this week. Finally, yay, let's clap about that. And what didn't work, okay, what development opportunities are needed, right? Maybe somebody needs a role play. Maybe somebody needs a different script. Maybe somebody needs support calling people, like whatever it is. But it's about defining what those priorities are and really putting a plan around it and checking up on them all of the time. I'm going to read you some statistics that I read in my discussion partner trainings for insurance agents. And it's about sales. It's not really about sales. It's about follow-up, right? And we follow up in all kinds of different areas of our life. Yes, we follow up on sales that we're creating, and we follow up on stuff that we've committed to. We follow up on our work. We follow up on our word, all this stuff. And here's the thing, 48% of the time, we don't follow up. We say something, we do something, and then we just never. So whether that's that goes for a customer, right? I have a customer, I talk to a customer about something, and then I never follow up. 48% of the time, we're not even following up with people. 25% of the time, we do a second follow-up. 10% of the time, we do a third follow-up. So 10% of the time, we are following up 3 times. Here's the thing. only 2% of sales are made on the first follow-up. 80% of sales are made after the 5th follow-up. And only 10% of us are following up more than 3 times. So what does that mean? It means we're spinning our wheels. We're not sticking in it long enough to get the result to what it is that we say that we want to get to. And that happens on teams constantly. And then everybody pretends not to know because, oh my God, I didn't hit my quota. Oh my God, I didn't get my work done. I'm going to be over here in shame and blame and not talk about it. When in fact, you need support to actually get the work done. So follow-up is king. Follow-up is absolute king. So on a team, every single week that's following up on their priorities, okay, our 3 priorities this week were this, this, and this. And at the end of the week, we're following up and we're recommitting for the next week. So that follow-up process on a team is really, really important to keep the team aligned, to keep them connected to the vision, to keep them moving forward, to make sure that everybody knows what support is needed. And when we do that, we uncover what's under the covers a lot faster than we would if we weren't following up and checking up on what's going on. Any comments or questions on that? That was a lot. It's big. I'd love to know what you're committed to. So based on follow-up in the chat and those statistics that I just read, and maybe what's missing in your own specific leadership or what's missing on your team, what are you committed to in regards to follow-up? Because the follow-up piece is it's huge. If you take nothing away from today, it's that like whatever it is that I'm doing, I get to follow up on to make sure it's complete, to make sure it gets done, to make sure it doesn't need something more. Follow-up makes so much sense. So easy just to make a statement and leave it out there. Yeah, it is. I remember hiring people, like when I was in agency, I remember hiring people, bringing somebody on into a new role. And then like I'd spend 2 hours with them and go, okay, go. And that doesn't work. It doesn't work. And so we're wasting everybody's time. And in today's fast-paced, constantly changing, like crazy world that we're living in, like we get to be on top of it. Otherwise, years pass, a lot of time passes, and we're just wasting this valuable, precious time that we've got. I'm letting go of story of being annoying. Chantel, you're not annoying at all. It's my favorite day when Chantel speaks. But how many of us have that?
Oh,
God,
all
if
the
I say
time,
this,
like, oh, I don't want to bother you because I don't want to be annoying, so I'll just leave it. And yeah.
Anybody else feel Chantel right now? Yeah, if I say that, they're going to think I'm weird. If I say that, I'm going to be annoying. If I say that, I'm going to be too much. If I present that this, story. It's all story. You get to stand in your leadership because I guarantee you, if you're feeling it, there are other people on the
Right.
team.
So Tina, don't you?
Go ahead, Dan.
I was just going to say, I can't text, obviously I'm driving, but it's like, it's kind of maybe a good habit to try to like set the expectation for follow-up. So like whether you're the one that's saying, you know what, if it works for you, I'm going to follow up with you by, right? Or I should have this to you by, whatever that verbiage looks like, right? And on the flip side, right, if you're on the receiving side, if you're not getting that from someone, it's like, when can I expect to? So like when you're on the same page, you both heard it, you verbalize, and it's just kind of coming to agreement.
Yeah.
And then it's okay, right? Because you left there thinking the same thing. Basically be the person like if you're not getting, you're saying, hey, I know you're busy, right? When we last chatted, right? You said, I would expect to have an update by this. Where are we at? Right.
Yep,
Again,
exactly.
If you have clear expectations, it makes the follow-up easy.
Totally. Yeah. The clear expectation. And if you're a promoter like me, yes, to every single thing that you said. And if you're a promoter like me, you get to put a note on your calendar that you had that conversation so that you remember to follow up. Right. And then there's this other whole piece of that, Dan, that I want to mention, because if you're the one who's not going to get the work on time. So I have this deadline that's due tomorrow. How often do we pretend not to know that deadline's coming, and then it comes and goes and we're like, okay, well, I just need one more day. Maybe nobody will notice I missed it. Right. And we're playing all these games about this deadline because we're feeling all this shame and blame and guilt. Well, what if you just said, hey, guess what? I'm asking to renegotiate that deadline. I know that I said that I'd have it by noon. Some stuff came in the way. Here's what I'm committed to. I'm committed to have it to you tomorrow by noon. Then there's no shame and blame. It's communication, right? Like, but we have this story in our head that like we're bad because we missed the deadline, and it's, you know, we're a bad person and like all of that. And no, life got in the way. And so as the leader with a team, I want my team to come with and let me know that. And for you, you don't have to sit in shame and blame, worrying about not getting it done. You just get to renegotiate the timeline. It's the whole 50 pounds thing. If I say I'm gonna lose 50 pounds in 2 months and I only lose 40 pounds, I didn't fail. I freaking lost 40 pounds. I just get to recommit to the other 10 pounds. That's all. That's all it is. I just get to recommit, and I'm going to do that in 30 days. Okay, cool. So it's about priority. What's my priority? Following up on that priority, see what's working, what's not working, and just moving through it in that way. That way, communication is there, expectation is there. All those pieces are in that when we have a system in place to actually continually follow up. And then if you go to, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say real quick, because that part too, of like, if you can add the human element, right, as a leader, then I think to your comment earlier about like, how do you create that safe space on your team, right? To say this is a safe, again, by being the leader and saying, guess what? I'm not going to make this by, right? And showing them what it's like to communicate that and work and practicing it. Again, I think it's for the good of everyone, right? Your team is more functional, and they'll be like, you know what, it's okay too, because we're all contributors, right? It's not a me, it's a we.
Yeah, what I hear you saying is embodiment, right? As the leader, if I'm not embodying leadership, my team is not going to embody leadership. Like, we are source. So if I show up as the leader of a team, as the titled leader of the team, and I've got low energy, my team is going to have low energy that day. If I'm ticked off, my team's going to be grouchy that day. Like, we are source. And so embodying the leadership. So, you know, saying to your team, hey team, I'm committed to creating safe space. If you ever do not feel safe, I'm counting on you to come and let me know. Like, that's the expectation. That's setting up that communication so that the team knows what your values are, so that the team understands what your stand is, so that the team then can completely wrap around it. Again, we set up these initial agreements, this initial framework of conversations and frameworks, so that when we get stuck, we just come back to the process. When I get stuck, instead of spinning out for 3 weeks, I just get to find my clarity. Instead of spinning out and not taught and being mad and in my suffering, like, who wants to feel that? I want to be alive every day. I want to feel joyful every day. I want to be on fire and laughing and having fun and being in it every day with people who are the same. And so I get to embody that. I get to start that. So as a leader, understand that how you show up, your way of being, is what sets the tone for the rest of the team, no matter if you are the leader or not. So you get to be what's missing. And so clarity, alignment, and then action. This just is another thing that goes back on that next page. But if we go to the page with the quotes on it, the best teams, I love this quote. The best teams are a bunch of nobodies who love everybody and serve anybody, but don't care about becoming a somebody. What does that say to you? What does that really say? Jenny, what does that really say?
To me, it just means you're not standing out. You're not trying to take control. You're not supposed to be promoting yourself. It's, again, the we, not the me. That's what I heard.
Exactly, Chris. Exactly. It's the team. We are a team. It doesn't matter who has the title. It doesn't matter who's better at one thing versus another thing. None of it matters. We all have our superpowers. We all have our strengths. And when we know ourselves, we also know our shadows. It's a big piece of it, right? When we really truly know ourselves, we know our shadows. And so when we know our shadows and we're aware of them, it's way easier for people to come to us and say, hey, you're in your shadow right now. Right? Like, if I know that one of my shadows is not being unorganized, which it might be, right? Like scattered, unorganized, I'm a promoter. I know that's a shadow. So the people that I surround myself with, when I'm in that scatteredness, I mean, I'm sure that Rima at one time or another has said, yo, Tina, what's your contract? Because I was all over the board. My contract is I'm a powerful, authentic, loving leader. And it shifts me back into being who it is that I say that I get to be. So surround yourself with the people that will call you forward. Like, hey, Kelsey, are you okay? What's going on right now? Like, usually you're on fire and I'm feeling like something's okay. Are you okay? Like, just, are you okay? How can I support you? Sometimes that's all it takes. All it takes to rise somebody up and lift somebody out of where they're at and shift them back into their vision and into what they say they're really going to do. I love, Stephanie, that you are talking about the new mantra. How easy is that new mantra going to be? So, and whenever anything's going down in the agency, you can be like, hey, choose joy. Hey, we get to choose joy right now. Rima, did you have something?
I wanted to, the being this championship team, and when you're asking, if you are we're holding each other accountable for being part of a championship team. And so, like, if someone says something that they'll get something or they'll do something, and and we get to reach out when it doesn't happen and say, hey, by the way, everything okay? Did you remember to get this done? I think that is very supportive in that other person's leadership. So instead of thinking that we are overstepping, or now they're going to think we're pushy, or, oh my gosh, they're going to be like, oh, who are you to tell me this? When I was in corporate, I led many teams. So everywhere I was the leader. And I remember as I tell my story, my story is, I wish I had somewhere to go. I wish there was someone that was like, hey, everything okay? Hey, how can we support you? Hey,
right.
I did not experience that. So, yeah, I just wanted to presence that here in case that comes up for you, because I know it's come up for me. But it supports people, because sometimes maybe that person can't articulate, no, everything's not okay. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm spinning out of control.
Yeah.
And just asking the question may support.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Rima, for sure. Yeah, Kenzie, we're already out of time. So I want you guys to take the workbook. Megan, if you could post the link one more time for the workbook. There's a team on a team. It's not the strength of the individual players. It's the strength of the unit and how they function together. So sometimes you, without a title, being the leader, gets to be what's missing so that someone else can see their leadership and rise up within their own leadership. That's the impact that you can create when it's done from a loving space. So thank you everyone for being here. Make sure to go check out Reset. We've got Reset coming on June 9th. It's online. We've got a Heal 3-day retreat coming in Florida. So lots of stuff going on. If you're interested in any of it, DM me. But we will be back here with Chantel. Chantel, what date is that?
The 11th of April.
There we go, 11th of April with Chantel. All right, thanks everyone.
Thanks, Tina.
Day.
Thanks, Tina.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.